I waited for my children. An emotional English story for listening practice. My name is Margaret, and I am 78 years old. I sit by my window every day, looking at the empty street, waiting. I have been waiting for a very long time. This is my story, a story about love, loss, hope, and the long road back to happiness. I was born in a small village many years ago. My childhood was simple but happy. My parents were poor, but they loved me very much. My father worked in the fields, and my mother made clothes for the village people. We lived in a tiny house with only 2 rooms, but it was full of warmth and laughter. When I was young, I loved to play near the river. I would sit on the soft grass and watch the water flow by. The sound of the river made me feel peaceful. Sometimes I would pick flowers and bring them home to my mother. She would smile and put them in a jar by the window. Those were beautiful days, days I remember with tears in my eyes now. But life changed when I turned 16. A young man came to our village. His name was Thomas. He was tall and handsome, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He worked in the next town as a carpenter. Every week, he would come to our village to visit his grandmother. And every week, I would see him walking down the road, and my heart would beat faster. One day, Thomas stopped to talk to me. I was carrying water from the well, and he asked if he could help me. I was shy, but I said yes. He carried the heavy bucket all the way to my house. My mother saw us and smiled. From that day, Thomas came to see me more often. We would walk by the river and talk about our dreams. He wanted to build beautiful houses. I wanted to have a family and a happy home. After 2 years, Thomas asked my father if he could marry me. My father agreed, and we had a small wedding in the village church. It was the happiest day of my life. I wore a simple white dress that my mother made, and Thomas wore his best suit. All the village people came to celebrate with us. We danced and ate and laughed until the stars came out. Thomas and I moved to the town where he worked. We rented a small house near his workshop. It was not big, but it was ours. I made curtains for the windows and planted flowers in the garden. Thomas worked hard every day, making furniture for people. In the evenings, we would sit together and talk about our future. We wanted children, many children, to fill our home with joy. Our first child came 1 year later. We named him David. When the doctor put him in my arms, I cried with happiness. He was so small, so perfect. Thomas looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "We are a real family now." David had his father's eyes and my smile. Every day with him was a gift. I would sing to him, feed him, and watch him sleep. I loved being a mother more than anything in the world. 2 years later, our daughter was born. We named her Emma. She was beautiful, with golden hair and bright blue eyes. David loved his little sister very much. He would sit next to her crib and talk to her in his baby language. Our house was full of noise and laughter. Thomas worked even harder to give us everything we needed. I took care of the children and our home. We were not rich, but we were happy. But happiness does not always last forever. When David was 5 and Emma was 3, something terrible happened. There was an accident at Thomas's workshop. A heavy piece of wood fell on him. They brought him home, but he was badly hurt. The doctor came and did everything he could, but it was not enough. Thomas died 3 days later, holding my hand. I cannot describe the pain I felt. It was like someone had torn my heart from my chest. I cried for days and nights. My beautiful Thomas was gone. I was only 24 years old, and I was alone with 2 small children. I did not know how I would survive. The world seemed dark and cold without him. My parents came to help me. They took me and the children back to the village. We lived in their small house again. My father was old and could not work in the fields anymore, but he grew vegetables in our garden. My mother helped me take care of David and Emma. Every day was a struggle. We had very little money. Sometimes we did not have enough food. But we survived because we loved each other. I had to be strong for my children. I could not let them see me cry all the time. I had to smile and play with them. I told them stories about their father, about how brave and kind he was. David would listen carefully, trying to remember the man who had held him when he was a baby. Emma was too young to remember Thomas at all. That made me even sadder. Years passed slowly. I worked hard to give my children a good life. I made clothes like my mother, sewing late into the night when the children were asleep. I sold the clothes in the market. It was not much money, but it helped. My parents were getting older and weaker. I worried about them too. When David was 12, something wonderful happened. A teacher from the town came to our village. He saw that David was very intelligent. He told me that David should go to the school in the town. He said David could have a scholarship, the school would pay for his education. I was so proud, but I was also scared. The town was far away. David would have to live there during the school year. But I knew this was his chance for a better life. David went to the school. I cried the day he left, but I was also happy. Emma missed her brother very much. She would sit in his empty bed and ask when he was coming home. I told her he was studying hard to become someone important. Every month, David would come home for a few days. He would tell us about his lessons and his new friends. His eyes were bright with excitement. I could see that he was happy. Emma was growing up too. She was a beautiful girl, kind and gentle like her father. She helped me with everything: cooking, cleaning, taking care of my parents. She was only 10 years old, but she worked like an adult. I felt sad that she had to grow up so fast. I wanted her to play and be happy like other children. But she never complained. She would smile and say, "We are together, Mother. That is all that matters." When David was 16, my father became very sick. He was 80 years old, and his body was tired. The doctors said there was nothing he could do. My father died peacefully in his sleep. I sat by his bed all night, holding his cold hand, remembering all the times he had protected me and loved me. My mother cried silently. She had lost her husband of 60 years. Emma held me tight, and when David came home, he helped me bury our father in the village cemetery. Life became even harder after my father died. My mother was very sad. She stopped eating and stopped talking. She just sat by the window, looking at nothing. I tried to make her happy, but nothing worked. 6 months later, she died too. I think she died of a broken heart. She wanted to be with my father again. I understood that feeling. Sometimes I wanted to be with Thomas again too. But I had my children. I had to keep living for them. David finished school when he was 18. He was the best student in his class. He got a job in the city, working for a big company. I was so proud of him. He had worked so hard, and now he had a good future. But the city was very far away, a whole day's journey by train. David promised to send money home every month and to visit when he could. Emma was 15 now. She was even more beautiful than before. Boys from the village would look at her, but she was not interested in them. She wanted to study too. She wanted to become a teacher. I saved every penny I could to send her to the training college in the town. It was hard, but I wanted her to have the same chance as David. 2 years later, Emma went to the college. Now, both my children were gone. I lived alone in my parents' old house. The silence was terrible. I would wake up in the morning and forget that no one else was there. I would call their names, and then I would remember. The house felt so empty, so cold. But I told myself this was good. My children were building their lives. They were becoming successful. That was what I had worked for all these years. David wrote letters to me every month. He sent money, which helped me very much. He told me about his job, about the big buildings in the city, about the many people and cars. He said he was saving money to buy a house someday. I was happy for him, but I missed him terribly. I kept his letters in a box under my bed. On lonely nights, I would read them again and again, imagining his voice. Emma wrote to me too. She told me about her studies, about the children she was learning to teach. She was doing very well. Her teachers said she was excellent. I smiled when I read her letters. My little Emma was becoming a teacher, just like she wanted. 3 years passed. I was 45 years old. My hair was turning gray, and my hands hurt from all the years of sewing. But I was happy because my children were happy. Then one day, David came home to visit. He brought someone with him, a young woman named Sarah. She was from the city, educated and pretty. David told me they wanted to get married. I looked at Sarah carefully. She seemed kind, but she was very different from our village people. She wore expensive clothes and spoke in a way I did not understand sometimes. But David loved her, and that was what mattered. They got married in the city. David sent me money to buy a train ticket and a new dress. It was the first time I had been to the city. I was scared of all the noise and the crowds. The wedding was in a big church with hundreds of people. I did not know anyone there. I sat alone in the front row, watching my son marry this woman from another world. I was happy for him, but I also felt very far away from him. After the wedding, I went back to the village. David and Sarah went on a honeymoon to the mountains. A year later, Emma finished her training. She got a job as a teacher in a school in another town. She was very excited. She came home to tell me the news. I hugged her and told her how proud I was. She said she would visit me every month. But I knew that life would take her away from me too. And I was right. Emma met a man in the town where she worked. His name was Peter. He was a doctor. They fell in love and got married. Emma came home to tell me. She looked so happy, so beautiful in her happiness. I gave her my blessing. I gave her the necklace that Thomas had given me on our wedding day. She cried and hugged me. She said, "Mother, you have given me everything. I will always love you." Now both my children were married and living far away. David was in the city with Sarah. Emma was in the town with Peter. I was alone in the village. The years that followed were the loneliest of my life. David and Emma would visit me sometimes, but not often. They were busy with their own lives, their own families. I understood. I did not want to be a burden to them. David and Sarah had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Emma and Peter had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I became a grandmother. I wanted to see my grandchildren, to hold them, to love them, but they lived so far away. I saw them maybe once or twice a year when David and Emma brought them to the village for a short visit. The children did not know me very well. I was just an old woman in a small house. They were more interested in playing outside than sitting with me. Before we start, we'd love for you to watch the story carefully and, at the end, rate it from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your opinion helps us understand what kind of stories you enjoy and guides us to create even better content for you. When I was 55, I became sick. It was something wrong with my heart. I had to go to the hospital in the town. The doctors said I needed to rest, to take medicine every day. I was scared. I wrote letters to David and Emma, telling them I was sick. David sent money for the medicine. Emma came to visit me for 2 days. She was very worried. She said, "Mother, you should come and live with us. Peter and I have a big house. You can stay in the guest room." I thought about it, but I said no. This was my home. My parents were buried here. Thomas was buried here. All my memories were here. I did not want to be a guest in someone else's house, even if it was my daughter's house. I told Emma I would be fine. She cried and hugged me. Then she went back to her town, to her family. The years passed slowly. I grew older and weaker. My house was falling apart. The roof had holes, and the walls were cracked. I did not have money to fix it. I lived on the small amount of money David sent me each month and the pension I got from the government. It was not much. I ate simple food, bread, vegetables from my garden, sometimes a little cheese. I was often cold in the winter because I could not afford much wood for the fire. I waited for my children to visit. Sometimes David would come with his family for one day. They would stay for a few hours, eat lunch, and then leave. Sarah did not like the village. She would complain about the dirt roads and the simple toilet. The children would be bored. They would ask, "When are we going home?" I would smile and give them cookies I had baked. Then they would leave, and I would be alone again. Emma came more often than David, but not as often as I hoped. She was busy with her teaching job and her 3 children. When she came, she would clean my house and cook food for me. She would check my medicine and worry about me. But then she would have to go back. "I'm sorry, Mother," she would say, "but the children have school, and Peter needs me at home." I understood. I really did. But understanding did not make the loneliness easier. I would sit by my window every day, looking at the road, hoping to see them coming. Most days, no one came. The village itself was dying. Young people left to find work in towns and cities. Old people died. Soon, there were only a few of us left. When I was 65, I fell and broke my leg. I was alone in the house. I lay on the floor for hours, crying from the pain, unable to move. Finally, my neighbor heard my calls and came to help. They took me to the hospital. I stayed there for 2 weeks. David came to see me once. Emma came 3 times. But then I had to go home. I could not walk well. Every step hurt. But there was no one to take care of me. I had to manage alone. Those were dark days. I felt like a burden, like my life had no meaning anymore. I had worked so hard for my children. I had given them everything. And now I was old and alone. I did not blame them. They had their own lives, their own problems. But I was sad. I cried many nights, asking God why I had to suffer so much. But I did not give up. Something inside me, maybe it was stubbornness, maybe it was hope, kept me going. I thought about Thomas, about how brave he had been. I thought about my parents, about how they had survived hard times. I told myself I could survive too. Years passed. I turned 70, then 75. My body was weak, but my mind was still clear. I still waited by my window. I still hoped to see my children coming down the road. Sometimes they came for Christmas, for my birthday, for a short visit. But it was never enough. I wanted more. I wanted them to stay, to talk with me, to listen to my stories. But they were always in a hurry to leave. One winter, when I was 77, something changed. I became very sick with pneumonia. I was coughing so much I could not breathe. I thought I was going to die. My neighbor called Emma. Emma came immediately. She saw how sick I was and took me to the hospital. The doctors said I almost died. They kept me in the hospital for 3 weeks. Emma stayed with me the whole time. She slept in a chair next to my bed. She held my hand when I was scared. She fed me when I was too weak to feed myself. And we talked, really talked for the first time in years. I told her about my loneliness, about how much I missed her and David. I told her about the long days and nights waiting for them. I cried, and she cried with me. "I'm so sorry, Mother," she said. "I did not realize how lonely you were. I was so busy with my life that I forgot about you. I took you for granted. I thought you would always be there, strong and patient. But you needed me, and I was not there for you. Please forgive me. I held her hand and said, "There is nothing to forgive. You are here now. That is all that matters." When I got better, Emma made a decision. She talked to Peter, and they agreed. I would come and live with them. She would not take no for an answer this time. "You have been alone too long, Mother," she said. "You are coming home with me." I was scared. I did not want to leave my village, my house, my memories. But I was also tired, so tired of being alone. So I agreed. Emma packed my few belongings. We said goodbye to my house, to the graves of my parents and Thomas. And we went to the town where Emma lived. Peter and Emma's house was big and warm. They gave me a room with a soft bed and a window that looked out at a garden. Emma's children, my grandchildren, were teenagers now. They were shy with me at first, but slowly they started to talk to me. I told them stories about their mother when she was young, about their grandfather Thomas, whom they had never met. They listened with wide eyes. Emma called David and told him I was living with her now. David came to visit with his family. Sarah was nicer to me this time. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe she had just grown older and wiser. David hugged me for a long time. "I'm sorry I was not a better son," he said. I told him the same thing I told Emma. "You are here now. That is all that matters." In Emma's house, I was not alone anymore. Every morning, the children would come to my room and say good morning. Emma would bring me breakfast. Peter would sit with me and read the newspaper to me because my eyes were weak. In the evenings, we would all eat dinner together. The table was full of people and laughter and love. David started visiting more often. He would bring his children, and all the grandchildren would play together. I would sit in my chair and watch them, my heart full of joy. This was what I had dreamed of all those lonely years, to be surrounded by my family, to hear their voices, to feel their love. I am 78 years old now. I do not have many years left. My body is old and tired, but my heart is happy. I am not waiting anymore. My children are here. My grandchildren are here. I am home. Sometimes I think about my life, all the pain, all the loss, all the loneliness. And I think about the love too, the love of Thomas, the love of my parents, the love of my children. Life was hard, but love made it worth living. I waited for my children for so many years, and now they are here. That is all I ever wanted. As I sit by my window now, I do not look at an empty road. I look at the garden where my grandchildren play. I look at the life around me. I am not alone anymore. I am surrounded by the family I always dreamed of. And I am grateful, grateful for every moment, grateful for every smile, grateful for the love that brought us back together. This is my story. It is a story of pain and hope, of loss and love, of waiting and finally coming home. And even though my body is old and weak, my heart is young and strong with love. That is the greatest gift of all. Now that you've seen the whole story, we would really appreciate it if you rate it from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your thoughts help us improve and make sure we bring you the kind of stories you truly enjoy.